One.
Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
What would you do if I podcasted to you? Would you log off and get off your phone? Lend me your earbuds and we'll talk about TV. We'll just try not to drone on for too long. When I podcast a little with my friends. Just gonna podcast a little with my friends. And now I'm gonna stop there so that we don't get a takedown notice.
It was definitely a Joe Cocker imitation that would get us banned from YouTube.
So, welcome back, everybody, to Those Were the Days, the podcast where we take a look back at some classic TV from back in the day and see what we're thinking about it today. Now, I'm your host this time around, Audie, and we've got a new theme. We're talking the worst of the best, looking at some of the worst episodes of the best TV, in our humble opinions, of course. But of course, I do need to podcast a little with my friends, so let me introduce them to you as we do. First, riding up on his bike, there's Steven.
Hey guys, we need to put Kevin in a really uncomfortable situation. What's the worst thing we could do to him? Yeah, I don't know, have someone give him a swirly? We don't have to demonstrate any kind of aggressive behavior. Don't want the kids imitating it. Well, what if we have him play some dorky sport? Like chess? No. Let's do soccer. We'll surround him with a bunch of nerds. Won't that make people pick on nerds? No. They're used to it. They've been through this before. Hey, let's ship it. Let's air the show. Let's go.
Next, pulling her radio flyer wagon, it's Amy.
So the 1970 World Cup was held in Mexico City and had a total attendance of 1.6 million people. In 1971, the first ever Women's World Cup happened with a final attendance of a world record-breaking 110,000 people. Just apropos of nothing. Don't even worry about it, though. That's just fact.
And finally, walking up, throwing his yo-yo, it's Travis.
So I was on the cross country team back in high school, and the best advice my coach ever gave me was, hey, run faster than the other guys. You know, that's stuck with me all these years later.
All right. So, we are now talking the worst of the best TV, and I'm kicking us off talking about one of the TV goats. We're talking about the Wonder Years, if you didn't catch that from our intros at all, somehow. Now, as we do before we get into it too far, let's actually talk about everyone's history with the show. Let's start with you, Travis.
I mean, I definitely remember the Wonder Years, and it was just such a cultural touchstone show. I think my biggest memories are obviously Fred Savage, and then Danielle Stern doing the voiceover, and just like that voiceover constant throughout the show, and my inner monologue, while it doesn't sound like Danielle Stern, constantly going like that. So that's my biggest memories.
Nice. What about you, Steven?
I watched this show a million times. Like I've seen every episode of it at least 3 times. Because every night it came on Nick at Night, like right at it was in the pocket. I mean, it's in the pocket of my evening. You were not going to miss it. I was probably in bed or doing my homework watching The Wonder Years. And it hit at like the right time. I think I was probably 14, 15 when it was airing on Nick at Night. Maybe a little younger. But like I was, oh my gosh, I've been to these places. I know these kids. I've seen this world. I mean, not 1960s. But, I mean, kids don't change that much. They're pretty much the same. And I was there for all the rumors of, hey, did you know Paul is also Marilyn Manson? You remember that? That was a lot of
Mhm.
fun nonsense going on in your school.
Mhm.
But yeah, I treasure this show because I was there when I was really young. My parents watching it on TV. I remember the music coming on. This was what, 89 to 93 or something. It 88,
Mhm.
something like that. Anyway, I was old enough to be aware of it playing on our big brown cabinet television in the living room on our brown
Yep.
carpet next to our
Mhm.
brown fireplace. Uh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
with nicotine in the air everywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So long. That was a long answer for me to say yes. I'm familiar with the show. Thank you for asking.
Good answer. We'll take it. Amy, what about you?
This one, I believe, like I know I watched it, and I believe that this was another one of our family appointment television shows, like that we would all watch. I mean, Star Trek: The Next Generation was the big one, but I'm pretty sure we all sat down to watch this. I think my mom really liked it too, like a
Mhm.
lot, if memory
Mhm.
serves.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love the Wonder Years.
Yeah.
It is a show with
Yeah.
mom energy. It's got
Yeah,
that
yeah,
for
Mhm.
sure.
because you just, it's just you can just mom shake your head the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And the
Mhm.
mom is really caring and great in
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
show. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you just watch Kevin. You're,
Yeah. I, I'm definitely in that same boat that it was. I don't remember it necessarily being appointment television for my family, but I remember us just watching it all the time when it was on. Um, I don't remember all the way up to the ending. Like I've since, you know, going over it and stuff, being like, oh, that's how they ended. Okay, interesting. Um, but yeah, so The Wonder Years was a coming of age comedy that ran on ABC for 6 seasons from January 31st, 1988 until May 12th, 1993. It actually debuted right after the Super Bowl that year.
nice.
Oh,
So,
nice landing.
yep. Um, and each season was set exactly 20 years from its airing. So,
Okay.
That's clever.
1988 starting off in 1968. It focused on Kevin Arnold, a teen growing up in suburban middle class America with a family in the late 60s to early 70s, with his present, quote unquote, for the time, 30 something self narrating each episode. Um, Now, there's all kinds of stuff about this show all over there. I'm going to cover the basics and then we'll get into it because if you really want the nitty gritty, go on YouTube and watch all the ridiculous interviews you can find on there of the cast talking about this show. It's kind of crazy just how much is actually available to watch and learn and glean. And this seems to be one of those, Amy. This is one of those where everybody loved each other and got along and was okay with
Good.
each other afterwards.
I love we've got an AB disclaimer. Like we got
It's
to
like
Mhm.
know.
important. No, I mean, now I just, I can't get over it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
Just
So,
lie to me. Tell me they liked
You
each
just
other.
lie to
mhm.
me.
It was created by husband and wife producing writing team Neil Marlins and Carol Black. The show earned a spot in the Nielsen Top 30 during the first 4 seasons. Won an Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series in 1988. It had only aired 6 episodes when it won that Emmy.
Oh,
What?
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
In comedy
Um,
series. That's
right.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Continued with 54 various TV award nominations and winning 22 of them. It starred Fred Savage, as we said, as Kevin Arnold, who actually became the youngest actor ever nominated for the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series.
I
Dang.
love
And
Fred Savage. I mean,
that's
like Princess
still
Bride
a
was
record.
my
Oh, yeah.
favorite growing up. So Fred Savage was just,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
cool, man.
And he still holds that record. It's still up there. He's still the youngest nominated for that.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So then we got the rest of the cast. We have Josh Saviano starred as Kevin's best friend, Paul. Everybody thought, like Steven said, everybody thought he grew up to become Marilyn Manson. He did not.
No.
No.
Did not
No.
He
at
grew
all.
up to become a lawyer and didn't care about any of your opinions about that.
Does he ever address
Uh,
that, Audie, in your journeys trying to find out more about the show? Was that
I
ever
don't
addressed
remember
by
if there
him?
was anything specifically. I mean, he's in the the cast reunion kind of episodes and interviews and stuff. So he's there just talking about it and probably laughing it off with
Oh,
the rest of
probably.
them.
Yeah.
Then you've got Danica McKellar, starred as Gwendolyn Winnie Cooper, friend and eventual girlfriend for Kevin. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched the show.
Yeah.
Um, and they were our three mains throughout most of the series, kind of. Then you've got Kevin's family. You had his dad, Jack Arnold, played by Dan Lauria. His mom, Norma Arnold, played by Allie Mills. His oldest sister, Karen, played by Olivia Diabo. Older brother, Wayne, played by Jason Hervey. And like Travis was talking about earlier, adult Kevin narrating everything, played by Daniel Stern, which still blows my mind.
I need to point out somebody that's in this episode and no other episode, but it distracted me so hard until I realized where I knew him from.
Mhm.
I have a
So
feeling I know who this is
Yeah,
going to
me
be.
You do. You must. So there's like this tall, gangly nerd on the team
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
red hair.
Mhm.
And so he's Lumpy Adams from the Addams Family movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And I was
where I
like-
recognize him from.
I saw it and it kept like my head kept telling me Rocky Horror, and I was like, that's incorrect. Like you're wrong. Figure it out. And then it was like, it's Lumpy Adams.
Mhm.
Like
There we go.
I mean, right direction, just wrong.
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, I went the
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
way. I got in the right
Yeah.
vibe.
This episode had a couple of those because
Yeah.
the guy that was the twitchy one
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
they first meet, he is a character actor. He's been in a ton of stuff, but I remember him specifically from Psych. If you're playing the
Yes.
drinking game at home, take a shot.
Mhm.
But in Psych, he was in a couple of episodes, but the one in particular that I loved him in was he was the son of a Asian restaurant owner, and Sean and Gus go into the restaurant, start talking to him, and he's got this just horrifically thick Asian accent,
Oh boy.
and they make a joke about it,
Oh
and
my
he's like,
God.
"What are you talking about? This is like," he in the accent, he's like, "This is how I talk. I was adopted. This is how I and like then Sean and Gus kind of feel bad about it. But come to find out, he was a producer for Psych and like a bunch of
wow.
shows. He got into
Oh,
that
wow.
end of things. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's got one of those faces that when I see it, immediately I knew. So it was like him and then Lumpy Adams.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's all I could think of for any scene with the soccer team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That dude,
So-
you can tell he got into something other than acting because his IMDb photo has him with headphones around his neck, which means you're on set doing something other than acting.
Yeah.
I hadn't looked at Danica McKellar's other stuff. Like I loved her in this,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
we didn't get her in this episode, but
No.
which is probably part of why it's the worst.
Yeah.
But you know that joke that always happens around Christmas about the Hallmark movies with the woman in the red dress and the man in the green sweater?
Mhm.
She does
That's
all
Dan-
of those movies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
she does.
Danica
That
McKellar.
makes me so happy.
Yep.
Mhm.
I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, bunch of those.
That's
Oh,
delightful.
Andy Berman is the actor, by the way, that I was mentioning.
Yes.
And this
Yeah.
was he became a semi-recurring character in the Wonder Years after this episode. This was his introduction. And then he did
Oh,
like
fun.
another bunch of episodes the rest of this season and the final season. So, but yeah, Danica McKellar in all the Hallmark movies.
Mhm.
She also got referenced. There's a song. It was like I hesitate to call it a one-hit wonder because like 8 people know of this song, and my
Sure.
friend Joe and I are 2 of them. But it was a song by this British kind of pop punk band called The Smell, from early 2000s, and they reference Winnie in that song. So whenever I like, that's kind of taken over my memories of the Wonder Years itself, to where I just think of that song and that line from it now.
Amazing.
Yeah. I just need to
Oh.
go back to the Daniel Stern thing because that still
Yeah.
blows my mind.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
hear him talk in interviews normal, and I'm like, in my mind, he is still Home Alone.
Yeah.
Like, he's just
Yeah.
that character.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But
Back
then, like, and now he's just an artist doing stuff, sculpting and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I acted for a while, but this is my passion. And it's like, cool. Like,
Great.
dude, cut the check and do what you want. I
Mhm.
remember being This is 98, 99 when it was running on Nick at Night, or maybe a little bit later. Anyway, when I was watching it as a teenager after its initial run, I remember hearing that voice and I was like, that sounds like Daniel Stern. But like, we didn't have internet to the degree where
No.
you could just
Right.
go look that up. So I
No,
sat
Right.
there
The
and I
best
just,
you could do is your TV guide.
yeah, your TV
Yeah.
guide,
Mhm.
or asking your friends, like, is that Daniel Stern? Is that
Mhm.
Nobody cared because I was the only person watching Nick at Night Wonder Years
Right.
in
Yeah.
my entire friend group. So like I just
Mhm.
had to sit there and wonder and be pretty sure, but I couldn't
And
confirm it for years. Drove
it
me
was
bonkers.
there was a short span between no internet and the internet that everybody would do the pop-up video style stuff for
Yeah,
some
yeah,
TV,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
and you
For
were
me,
lucky
it
if
was
you got
always
that.
like because my sister for a pretty good time, we were obsessed with City Slickers.
Dude,
Mhm.
good
And
choice.
so that is
It's
that is
amazing.
honestly the franchise I associate him with because we
It's
were very
Yeah.
into
So
City
good in
Slickers.
that.
it's
Mhm.
Home Alone and City Slickers. Those
Yeah.
two movie franchises are what I think of with him. And apparently, and I'm just seeing this now for the very first time, there is a video like short
Mhm.
from 2017 called
Yeah, I
City
just saw that.
Slickers in Westworld.
Yeah, I just saw
Oh
that
my
also.
goodness.
Is he in it?
And
Yeah.
he
that's
is
great.
All right.
playing
Well,
Phil,
I know
and
what
now
we're
I
doing
must
when I'm
find
done with
this.
this thing
Oh, and
tonight.
it's like Billy Crystal. Like it. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
all in.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's
Lord.
good.
okay, Billy Crystal.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
He also
what's his name?
reprises his
Probably
role
isn't.
from Rookie of the Year as the
Mm,
Oh yeah.
crazy
yes.
pitching coach, maybe. I can't remember what his jam, but he choked on sunflower seeds. He's amazing. And when the
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Cubs were in the World Series like 5 or 6 years ago, he did a video
Mhm.
about as in character, like from his living room. And you're
Perfect.
like, is Daniel
Nice.
Stern okay? Is he all
Mhm.
right? He got it together. He's
He's-
so good.
He's fine.
He's
He's just doing
amazing.
whatever he wants to
He's
do.
fine. Yep.
So-
I have to bring one last thing back with Andy Berman because him being the producer was one thing. He's also the voice of Dib from Invader Zim.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, sorry, just had to
Voice
mention
work.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, so the Wonder Years ran for 6 seasons. It was canceled and ended in 1993. Apparently, this was came from the executives at ABC at the time who didn't want to continue the show. There was some change of the guard there. There was financial issues with dealing, and then wondering about dealing with Kevin growing and maturing after this in the 70s and dealing with those kind of things. And it was interesting. I did listen to one interview that Dan Lawyer, who played the dad, talk about where he was like, everybody making the show was like, let us finish this better.
Yeah.
Like, give us like, we'll take a cut in pay. We'll do a half season, whatever. Like, and it wasn't done. So, but like, so yeah, so very interesting the way it kind of ended for them. But still, they had a pretty good run. But we're not talking about the good stuff.
No.
No, we're
That's not what
talking
we're here
about what's the worst episode. And again, I went to IMDb in all its glory, in all its wisdom, and it said season 5, episode 7, titled "Soccer" is the worst episode. And after watching it, I can see why. Because
Yeah. I mean, it's still like, what is it? It's still like a 7.4. So like, let's not,
right,
I mean,
Yeah.
right, out of 10, 7.4.
yeah.
But that speaks to the quality of the show in general and sort of the
absolutely.
nostalgic
Right.
feeling. Like, even when it's not great, like it's still watchable. There was
Yeah.
moments in this that were pretty fun, but also,
I mean, and that's what
it's a
makes
little
it
rough.
Mhm.
one of the greatest of all time show. Like I noticed that when I was searching for my show, it was like, man, when a good show's good, it's good for
Yeah.
a reason.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
real
Mhm.
hard to find the writers having an off day, and just running out of
Yeah.
things to do. So I mean, in the scope of things, is bad TV, but it's not as bad as it could be. None of, I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
definitely wasn't trash, you know?
Right.
No.
It was not a great episode, though. It
Mm-mm.
was not.
And I'll go ahead and say one of the main reasons for that is all we get is Kevin. There is
Yeah.
no Paul.
Yeah.
There's no
Mhm.
dealing with Winnie. They're out of the picture. It's mostly just we barely get his family in
Yeah.
this episode.
Yeah.
Like there's one
get, like-
conversation scene at the beginning, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it all centers around the soccer team and the coach, and then they do nothing with that. And I think that's
I mean,
the
that's the
thing
problem, right?
that drove
Yeah.
me nuts in this episode is it got to the end and I'm like, what are we doing? Why is that nothing happened?
Mhm.
We need to fill
Right, because
30
we-
minutes.
Yeah.
Pretty
Basically.
much. Yeah. Talk about the definition of a filler episode.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, you think there's going to be some grand ending because we start with the trophy case and talking about
Yeah.
the grandeur it is to be in the trophy case at the school
Yeah.
and all this. And we have Kevin trying out for football.
That was
And
really good. That part was pretty good.
Yeah, I like
I-
that a lot.
I love it when he's trying out, he's getting smacked around. Coach calls him over and it's like, you gave it your all. Does that mean I make the team? You gotta be joking.
That is literally the best you can do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, and I love like there was where the voiceovers get like, well, I was
Yeah.
5'4" and 115 pounds. What was I gonna
Mhm.
do? Like,
Right.
Yeah, it's, the voiceover is what makes that work. And also, it's just fun because it's like the early 70s, and that coach was definitely going to tell him, no, get the
Mhm.
shower,
Right.
kid. There's
Yeah,
no like,
no.
well, you did your best, son, but it's not for everybody. It was just
Right, no.
blunt trauma
Pound sand.
straight into
Mhm.
his face.
I mean, I'm surprised that the coach wasn't smoking
Yes.
Yeah.
during practice,
Mhm.
like just lighting up a heater right there on the field.
Right.
He
Well,
just
again,
finished one.
ABC censors and whatnot.
Yeah, it was still the early 90s, despite it taking place then. On
Yeah.
TV, they're like,
Uh-huh.
well, it's the 70s. Can we smoke? No. Standards and practices says you can't smoke. Everyone
Mhm.
smoked. Too bad. You're going to have to leave this realism behind. Can he spit in a Coke can at least? Come on.
That would have been better. Yeah. He had a glass Coke bottle
Yeah,
that he's
just
spitting into.
with just a napkin shoved down into it.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
Yeah.
That was every
So-
bottle at my uncle's house.
You have to be careful what bottle you pick up and drink out of when you're hanging out.
I
Mhm.
never did
Uncle
in that.
Ted.
Like I made sure to have like whatever I had was sealed when I picked it up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why this tastes like ashes and skull. Whoops.
A wild time.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So yeah, we learned from the voiceover. It's Kevin's sophomore year in 1971. He's getting on the bus, lamenting the fact that he's not going to play a sport and get in the trophy case. For whatever reason, he wants to get in the trophy case. And I love
Which
that
is
it's-
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently.
To some people.
But yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It's like, why is this important to you, Kevin? Like,
Yeah, like if you're not a sports guy.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the
Maybe
But he
interesting
wants
thing
to.
about that was the interesting thing about Kevin. Like he was kind of, it's almost like the writers wanted him to be a nerd, and just kind of always down
Mhm.
on his luck. But he was always trying to be the coolest kid in the room at the same time. It always just never worked out, but he never stopped trying to make. That's why he went
Mhm.
for the football team. He was just trying to be that kid. I guess
Yeah.
because maybe his brother was. I don't know what the
Yeah.
psychology
Mhm.
behind that would have been. But I mean, it
Mhm.
makes sense. He just never, instead of embracing the fact that he was a big dork, he just kept fighting it. And you know
No, he
what?
did.
The rest of us learned how to embrace it, and look at us now. I mean,
Mhm.
me. Look at me now.
I was a theater kid in high school, so
You knew
I-
what you were
you
doing.
know.
Yeah.
yeah,
Rock and roll.
I knew what I was doing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was a comic book nerd. Now
Well,
we're having our
honestly,
heyday with X-Men 97.
And
I
you were
was the
jock.
athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
I
were
was.
the
Mhm.
day walker. Get to hang out with the nerds and the jocks at the same time.
It was really weird,
Yeah.
but
That's
that was
cool.
me.
I've known plenty
Yeah.
of you people.
What do you mean, you people?
You know,
Lord.
you do the thing. both things.
Okay, so before we have that discussion,
Yeah, help me out, Audie.
so Kevin's, lamenting not getting on the football team and gets hit with a football. I mean, soccer ball.
Oh
Mhm.
And I
wow. Yeah.
love Amy, this is why I loved your intro, because I was
Yeah.
thinking the same thing. Like he gets hit with a soccer ball and was like, "What's this?"
I mean, look, so that's 1971. Okay.
Mhm.
By 1984, 85, I was playing little tiny Pee Wee soccer because my
Mhm.
next door neighbor was a soccer coach. I have the
Mhm.
button with my photo. I think it's 1986. Like, it's not that, like, we're not, this is not giant
Yeah.
gaps,
Mhm.
man.
They
Like,
do
immigrants were here. Like, even if you pretend that no one that is native to the United States had ever heard of soccer, people came here.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
What?
so it's supposed to be
what?
1971. Pele
Yeah.
was already
Yeah.
like Pele existed,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and the World
Yeah.
Cup had been the year before in Brazil.
Yeah,
Mexico
So,
City.
oh, I'm sorry, Mexico City in 70.
Mexico
You're right.
City. Which is even worse, right? Because it's
Mhm.
right there.
It was even
It was
closer.
the first time it was outside of Europe or South America. So it
Mm.
was like a big deal. It
Mhm.
was the first time it was
Yeah.
in North America. You can't tell me that no one knew it.
Like it's
What
more
you
for the
you're
people
so
watching TV.
sheltered.
They're like, "Well, I've been to football, man, all day," and then they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, wait, let's
So
have Kevin be the
sheltered.
proxy for the meatheads who don't know what
Yeah.
soccer
Mm.
is."
And even at this time, they tried to couch it, but I had the same feeling. I was
I
like,
was like, I can't. I need to
Right.
look this up.
Yeah.
I gotta do some
Um,
research.
and so he meets one of the guys from the team, and he's like, "Wait, we've got a soccer team?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's
Now
like,
that
"Okay."
part I believe. Like that
Oh,
part's
sure.
fine.
Mhm.
Like I'm 100% with the like, hang on, what do you mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
Soccer was
So
a
he's
that's
cheap
like,
fine.
sport to add on to your school sports
So
too.
cheap because like
Mhm.
and it's a cheap one to play.
Yeah, it
You
costs
need
nothing.
like shin guards and a ball.
Mhm.
Great. And maybe some
And I
cleats,
mean,
but
he's asking, "Where do you practice?" The third auxiliary football field down through the woods by the stream. It's like, okay, by grandma's house. All right.
It's not even on school property.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
clearing.
Yeah, it belongs to the park next door, but they don't really maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And Kevin goes down to check it out, and he sees that it's all dorks. And I'm just like, Kevin, hello,
Kevin, you're
pot.
amongst your
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Have you
Those are a
ever
bunch of kettles, dude.
Yeah.
have you ever looked in the mirror, Kevin? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're nothing to write home about, buddy.
Yep. But apparently, Kevin can kick amazingly
Yeah.
because
That
that's what he
that
does.
was he my
And by
3-year-old needs
amazingly, I mean he successfully kicked the
kick
ball.
the ball.
They
Which I
hand a
guess when we do
direction.
see them play later, I guess that bar is pretty
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's always hard for me to watch people try to be unskilled at a thing, like and how miserable you have to be. Like
Yeah.
it's unrealistically bad. Like you can't. You're having to
Yeah.
try so hard, and we can
Mm-hmm.
tell you're trying to be not good. Like it's just
Well, it's like
Yeah.
I forget who it was talking about as an actor trying to play drunk.
yeah.
And it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work. You can't try to play drunk because when you're drunk, you're trying to play sober.
Right.
So you have to
Right.
really try to be sober and then you will seem drunk.
Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kevin's not sure he wants to be on the team, but everybody's like, "You kick so good, you." And Kevin's like, "Oh, I do this good, huh? I'm good." They're like,
My raw talent.
yeah.
"Go talk to the coach." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And we are introduced to Coach Pops McIntyre.
Cool
Um,
name.
Pops. I
yeah,
love a good pops.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and this was the other guy I recognized. It's just a character actor who's been all over the place.
Oh yeah, Paul Dooley's been in
Mhm.
everything made for like 40
Yeah.
years. He just would pop up on stuff.
Still
Frequently as a
working, too.
pops or coach.
Yep.
Mhm.
Just,
Yep.
you know.
But
He was born suited for that kind of a role.
Yeah.
I love that Kevin walks up to him and his first thing is, "Where's my juice? Did you
bring
bring
my
my
juice?"
juice?" It's like, hey, we're going straight for old man Pops.
Did
We
you
are
yeah,
going
and
to
then
give
did
him
you
that.
see what the juice was?
It was prune
It's
juice.
prune
It
juice.
Mhm.
sure was.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Sun-made prune
Prune
juice.
juice. I mean, when you're sitting on a cushion like that,
Yeah. Oh,
Listen,
pops.
listen. If it's good enough for Worf, it's good enough for
That's fair.
Coach.
You know what? That's
Mhm.
fair.
So apparently Kevin's on the team, and then we get the one small scene with his family, and I love when we talk about apparently soccer was unknown, and then his mom in asking about it is like, soccer, isn't that where they use brooms to sweep in front of the little
How do you know
thingy?
curling?
Yeah, this is
Right.
How do you know
ridiculous.
curling and not
Ridiculous.
soccer?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
right.
Curling is
Exactly.
an amazing sport, though.
It's great. You can do. I
Yes.
got invited to go, but I was sick that day and I couldn't go do some. I was
Mm.
They
excited.
do it near me, and I want to go.
Well, you should go.
We have an
But
actual.
I'm bad in low traction situations.
Nah,
That's
They just opened a curling center here.
all right.
Outstanding.
Get in
Ah.
on that, Travis.
mhm.
You can drink
Let's
and
go.
just push a broom. It'd be great. I want to do
Um, So the
We could
only
be a
other,
curling team.
it. Good.
We
Yeah.
could.
yeah, those were the games.
That's the
We got a
name
team
of our
name and everything.
inspirational Disney film
Yep. There we go.
for podcasting.
I'll be here all the week. Cool runnings, eat your heart out. Those are the
Yeah,
games
That's what I'm
coming up for you.
saying.
Those were the games.
So we find out one more interesting nugget as Kevin's talking to his dad about it, that Pops McIntyre was apparently the greatest football coach the school ever had.
Mhm.
They called him the Bear.
I mean, not
Kev-
to knock this man's credentials, but he's the greatest high school soccer coach. I mean, football coach. Like,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah. Let's
All right,
calm
this
down.
is not
And I mean,
Notre
it's
Dame
right.
Calm
It's
it.
the greatest high school football coach
of
for this
this
particular
school
high school.
Mhm.
in living
Right.
memory.
And wasn't I
Yes.
mean wasn't Bear Bramlett the coach of Alabama at the time? Like, there's already a
Bear. It was Bear Bryant.
Bear Bryant, excuse me.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, Bear Bryant.
Okay.
At
Let
the
the
time.
athlete tell us, Stephen.
I don't like Alabama. That's the problem.
I don't either.
War Eagle.
So you cut back to the soccer team, and Kevin's wondering if the bear is hibernating. And then we get our actual introductions to everybody. So we're first introduced to Kevin's friend from the school bus, whose name was Nick. The most uncoordinated person he had ever met, but also the biggest Star Trek fan, who definitely face planted and then did the
Because he did that on the bus too.
thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's like, yeah, it's soccer. And then he did it, and I was like, what? That doesn't make
Yeah, I
any
didn't-
sense. Why are
Mhm.
you
The
doing
context
that?
of that was weird, even
There's
even
no.
by the
I
show
don't
standards.
understand. I'm so
Yeah.
confused.
And then
That was honestly the most confusing part.
right. Then we're introduced to Andy, who is apparently just lazy. That's it. That's all he gets to be.
Well, because
lazy.
he's the chubby kid, obviously.
Right.
Mhm. Right.
Obviously.
Then we're introduced to Chuck, who is Mr. Fidget.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently he's elevated annoying to an art form somehow.
Listen, the poor kid had Tourette's. Okay?
I
I was
was
about to
not
say
his fault,
autism never existed.
There was
before.
no acknowledgement of like neurodiversion and how we're gonna
No.
take care of it. It was
No.
just straight up 80s level, like weird kids. Look at them.
Put him in a
Mhm.
room.
Look at them
Yeah,
doing
we go,
weird
and then we go
stuff.
from Tourette's to anxiety because we end up with Lee, who is just a bundle of nerves.
Yes.
Which was the same as Lumpy Adams. Lumpy Adams was
Yeah.
very
Mm-hmm.
same.
Yep.
Right.
Mm.
So they're all wondering how they're doing after practice, and they ask Kevin, and Kevin's just like,
Why are they asking him? He didn't even know what a soccer ball was 24
Right.
hours ago. Like, what? He doesn't know
Look,
the rules.
he could kick. He is good. We should ask.
He's got natural
Listen,
talent.
that was when I was 6 and playing soccer. I played with my best friend Doug, who also played. And now this is 6-year-olds playing soccer, right? Who are running up and down. But my particular variety of neurospicy really likes the rules. And so we're supposed to play halves. Like, you don't play positions when you're 6, but you're supposed to play halves, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And my friend Doug would just chase the ball. And apparently I would stand like toes on the line and yell at him to get back.
Oh
So-
I feel like
my
I'm
so
more
gosh.
qualified in this soccer scenario.
No
What
wonder
you're
we're
saying is-
friends.
There's 6-year-old blanket ball going on, and you're standing. You will not cross that
I
line.
will not cross that. They
Yeah.
told me not to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would have been doing the same thing Amy was doing. I've been like, the rules say don't. I'm not going to do
Do you
that.
know how
Yeah.
mad I got when people were going the wrong way down the grocery store aisles in 2020? It was very mad.
There are rules.
Wow.
Follow the
Get it
rules.
Thought I was the
together.
only one.
I'm fine though.
Yeah.
I'm
whereas
great.
it's-
I'm doing great.
So Kevin suggests they learn some plays, and they're like, "Yeah." So they go to Pops and ask him, "Hey, we want to learn some plays," and he's just like, "Learn some plays." Well,
Because he doesn't know soccer either.
no.
no, he
Like-
doesn't. He gives them a playbook, and we learn quickly. It's the football playbook.
Yeah.
It's probably the last one he used. It just was still sitting on his desk.
I feel like he's putting in his community service hours. Right? Like he hit a park car and now he's doing community service.
He's a
Well, he
tenured
said
high
He's
school
1 year
coach.
from his pension.
Right.
Yeah, watching the
said it
weird
himself.
kids out on the fields.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. They're just not great, and nobody seems to be able to
Care.
do anything about that. And again, Pops is 1 year away from his pension,
Mhm.
and they saddle him with this soccer. So he's
Thank
stuck
goodness
with it,
we
apparently.
YouTube. Right?
Mm,
I don't know how to do something. Great. No
Yeah.
worries.
Yeah, I'll
I
go
can
learn
look
it.
up.
mhm,
Back then, you had to have someone who could teach you things.
right.
Yeah. Because
Ugh.
I will accept that there probably were not soccer books at the library.
No. And if they were,
Most
they
not.
were probably historical context and
Yeah.
not actually how to play the game.
Just Pele.
Mhm.
And that's
It just said Pele. It's pictures of
Yeah.
Pele. Look at him
Right.
go.
it.
So it's game day now. They've got to play a proper team. They've got jerseys and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
it turns out some people here do, in fact, know how to play soccer.
mhm.
I do like that they were wearing rugby shirts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, close enough.
I mean, that's not that far off.
No. But then they get onto the field and see their opponents and
They're giant. They're
realize they
huge.
could have passed for the Italian national all-stars, apparently.
Sure.
I mean, they
Um,
have a functioning knowledge of how the game of soccer is played, which
Yeah.
already put them
Right.
at an advantage.
Yeah.
Mhm. I love that he used the phrase they did their dead level best.
What
That
does
is
that
good.
mean?
I don't know, but I've heard it and I like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
It's
an
going
old
into the
phrase, but-
lexicon. We're going to hear it in the next Ake Willow.
Probably.
Mhm.
You know.
I just thought dead level best was about the best description for their team.
Yeah.
And like they're losing 6-0, and they're like, it's the goalie's fault. And then everybody tries to be goalie, and then after 11-0, he's like, no, we ran out of scapegoats at that point. Apparently, you do halftime in the locker room, and Pops doesn't say anything. Kevin tries to give a pep talk, and he basically is just like, yeah, look, in a less glorified way. He says, let's be a goldfish, forget the first half, and just go out there. And so they just go out there and play. They get a possession. They get a completed pass.
Mhm.
They score a goal, and it's
Mhm.
awesome, and they celebrate. And then they realize it was their own goal that they scored on.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Oh, the second Lumpy Adams kicked the goal. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that's an own goal.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
They're scoring on their own net.
Yep.
And they're
Because at one point, like when you watch them do the completed pass, like the ball could have been taken at any time. Like you can see the other players are right there. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, what? Come on. Like they're just
Mhm.
letting them do it. And then I was like, oh.
that's why.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
I've played this team before, but it wasn't soccer. It was golf, and we were the
Uh-huh.
team that was just doing so miserable that they were just like,
Mhm.
we're just gonna not. It's fine. We're just gonna
Yeah.
let these kids play.
Yep.
You know.
Just
Dang
let
damn
them go.
And their frustration comes to a head, and everybody's fighting. And then Pops actually gets up and comes over, and he speaks words of wisdom. Kick it that way.
Thanks, man.
Good job, Pops. But in that moment, he became
Thanks,
a
Pops.
coach
Here's some more
again.
prune juice.
Yeah.
They were finally a team, and Kevin says, "Let's lose one for Pops."
Yeah.
And they do.
And it
Not a
starts
problem,
to
Kevin.
rain.
Yeah.
Thunder
It's
and
in the
lightning
rain,
and
in
rain.
the mud, and everything.
Yeah.
So, they only lose 19-0.
That's a
Sure.
high scoring game in soccer.
Soccer,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Soccer's
I mean,
like
look, they were
3.
down 11-0 at half. So they only gave up
Yeah.
7
Oh,
more goals.
They did better
So
in
Right.
the
that's
second half.
yeah.
One of which
and
was their
scored
own.
one of them. Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
I think the score would have been lower had the field been regulation size. I'm pretty sure that field was about a third of the size of an actual
Yeah.
soccer
It was
field.
tiny.
No, sure.
mhm.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
So, and then they apparently had a good time, and Kevin says he'll never forget these guys, even if they were dorks. I'm like, okay, Pot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dude, Kevin,
on a
you're a
team of
dork.
Kittles.
That's why you're here on this team.
Yep.
Mhm.
You're just able to communicate better than them with the jocks on the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're still a dork. Like if they're gonna
Mhm.
invite you to play D&D, and if you went, you'd have fun, and then you'd
You'd
have
have
to
a
figure
good
out what to
time.
do with
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
For real.
Actually, 71 they
sure.
didn't have D&D yet, right? That was later. That came along later. They
That
could
would
have
have been a
played
little
it.
bit later.
They could have played
Yeah.
a war game. Didn't they have war games
There was
then?
something.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's where we end this episode with we lost the soccer game, and I'll remember those guys. Not anything about the trophy case. Not, hey, we got in the trophy case, our picture, just because we played
Right,
on
like
the
the first
team.
soccer team or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Not
I
even that.
think that's really ultimately what made this episode not good is like just nothing happens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No
one
lessons.
learns anything.
Nothing.
Pop gets his prune juice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like Pops doesn't change from the beginning of the episode to the end.
Mhm.
No.
You know, nothing changes with anybody. It's just like it was a what are we even here for type episode.
And it
And I
was
think
missing.
that's why
It was missing Paul. It was missing Winnie. It was missing
Yeah.
Yep.
any. I mean, Kevin got to call Wayne a butthead, which is always
Sure.
that's necessary. It's part of the formula.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
outside
Mhm.
of that, like,
It's nice for him to call Wayne a butthead for a change.
yes, and like we got a little bit of Dan Loria, who is one of my favorite people on this
Mhm.
show. He's that stoic
Yeah.
1960s dad that's like, I would hug you, but that might make you weak. So
Right.
we're not going to do that, okay?
Mhm.
That's the kind of vibe that you get. I don't know. It was a bad episode, but it was better than some other bad TV,
Yeah. For
Mhm.
sure.
Because that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, it still is the Wonder Years. Like,
No,
Mhm.
despite how bad it was still, we get Daniel Stern narrating, talking to us, future Kevin,
mm-hmm.
talking about his time and everything, and Steven, like you said, young Kevin who is trying to be the coolest kid anywhere at any time,
Yep.
even though he's not.
He's not. He's never gonna be. But
But
if
he's
he would,
trying.
if he would accept it,
Mm-hmm.
he would be much better off. But we wouldn't have a TV show.
Yeah.
And I think that's the fun
So-
thing about having the voiceover. Like this show wouldn't work without it, because
No.
there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Having older Kevin looking back and kind of picking on younger Kevin is what makes it work. Like how
Yeah.
he can look back and go,
Yeah.
I was 5'4", 115 pounds. What was I
Yeah.
doing? That's what
Mhm.
makes this realize. It's older Kevin who knows who he is going, there's that kid who has no idea. And maybe
Yeah.
that's
I
what the
don't
Wonder
want-
Years
I-
is all about.
I don't want to go back. I don't.
Yeah.
No,
Because guess
and
what?
it's-
I still don't.
There's-
still know what
there's-
I'm doing. I'll be like, sorry, kid. I don't know what we were just flailing out here.
More
Mhm.
interesting about the show.
Enjoy
Like,
your college debt.
they knew what they were doing this voiceover thing. None of the
Yeah.
actors had any clue about it. Like, they didn't understand at all. They were like, "What?"
Wow.
Like, they came in and auditioned and stuff and got on the show, and it wasn't until later when they could actually see the show assembled and hear the actual narration, they were like, "Oh,
yeah.
wow, I
Yeah.
get it now."
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and it's not just a opening and a closing narration. It's throughout the show, which was
Mhm.
Right.
wildly different. That's not what I would have ever thought to do.
Right.
You can do it as a Kevin only episode when Kevin and older Kevin are the characters.
Right.
It gives it
Yeah.
a whole different vibe. So a bad episode like this can still have some sort of essence to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was that episode. Do I need to ask if we'd go back and watch more Wonder
No, of
Years
course
at all after?
Of course. Of course.
I've,
Yeah, oh yeah.
I've seen every episode. I would do it. I would watch it again. I would
Mhm.
sit down and watch through the show all over again.
Mm-hmm.
We
Easy.
can
There
we
was
can
a-
bring a good episode back sometime.
Oh yeah.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I think
Sure.
none of our TV shows we pick are ever off limits to be brought back
no,
up.
no, no, no,
But
no, no.
particularly this theme,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
definitely need to bring back the better.
Because I was thinking
Oh,
about
yeah.
that too. I did play with that idea of picking a show that we have already done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And doing
Oh,
a
yeah.
not good episode out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anybody see the new version of the Wonder Years?
No.
And watch it.
Definitely
It ran
no.
for
I think 2 or 3 seasons.
looks like two seasons, 3 seasons,
Oh.
32 episodes.
Yeah.
That's a shame. It's
No,
hard to
'cause
catch lightning in a bottle.
I'm
man.
that level of I'm that level of old cranky person that I'm like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
nah, we already did it.
Oh, Kurt in the
I didn't
chat
watch the
liked
other
it.
one either. Well, good. At least
Nice.
Kurt watched it for us. Thanks,
Yeah.
Kurt.
Thanks, Kurt.
Mhm.
Our man in the fields.
Reporting now to Kurt.
Yeah.
He says it's good.
But I mean, you could still watch it now. It's on Hulu.
Yeah.
Which is
Yep.
now part of Disney Plus and stuff. But
Which I think is why we finally got the Wonder Years streaming because
Mhm.
Yeah.
so for so long this show was unavailable, like it wasn't on video
Mhm.
because of the music.
Yeah.
Like there's so much music in it that the rights were just a nightmare until you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
Disney dollars and then it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, you
They're
can put
like,
James
yeah,
we own
Brown
you.
if you want to, which was a great choice
Yeah.
for
Right.
this episode.
It was really good.
It was.
Which watching this episode too, the opening Joe Cocker was definitely different than I remembered.
hmm
Um
Well, this was season 5, so it probably
Right.
had
Yeah.
changed significantly.
Yeah.
They were
they did.
Mhm.
They
old.
changed it.
Yeah,
in
there were
the-
old
the
clips,
intros.
8mm clips that were newer
Mhm.
than what I
Yes.
remember.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, that was the Wonder Years.
Mhm.
Season 5, episode 7, soccer. Did we get any feedback on this one at all?
Ooh, that's a good question. Did we get any
Heck.
feedback? I mean, it's a good thing I had the emails just pulled right up,
Yeah.
ready to look. We
Yeah,
did, Phil.
definitely.
We got one from
This-
Phil. Phil Rude has
Yes.
emailed us. Would you like me to read this email?
Phil. Yes.
He says
Absolutely.
Amy, Audie, Steven, and Travis. No favorites because he just did it in alphabetical order. He said, I don't have to tell you.
Lies.
I don't have to tell you all how great you are. You already know that, so I'll get right to it. Oh, you did have to tell us. It makes us feel good.
Yeah, we
Thanks,
do
Phil.
actually
Yeah,
need
we
that,
need-
Phil.
we-
Actually, that's
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
important.
we needed that. That's a critical piece of it.
All right.
The Wonder Years is a unique show to me because I watched it as it was airing and was the exact same age as Kevin Arnold. At the time, I didn't connect with any of the nostalgia for the 1960s or nostalgic view of childhood, but I identified with everything the character was going through in terms of first crushes, first heartbreaks, having a hard time connecting with your parents, all the coming of age stuff. When I revisited the show years later, there was an entirely different layer to it, and the show takes on an entirely different perspective and tone. As a kid, I saw The Wonder Years as a very funny, sweet, and relatable sitcom, but as an adult, it became a kind of sad and melancholic, almost dramatic show. It's an absolutely brilliant show to me because it's relevant to me in different ways at different times in my life, and that helps keep it evergreen. Thanks for covering such a great show, and keep up the great work, Phil. What a great
Phil.
look into that. That's a good point because I watched it as
Yeah.
a teen, and I equated a lot of what was going on with Kevin to my own experience. I'm sure looking at it now would be a very different view.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why when you said it, one comedy actually kind of threw me off a little bit because it has a lot of very dramatic overtones, and I don't know if that's because it doesn't have a laugh track. You know, it has some things that are funny, but it's kind of hard to tell whether it's trying to be funny or it's trying to pull on your heartstrings. It could go either way depending on how you're watching it and the mood you're in, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And the
it's
way
done
they're
in a
handling
yeah, and the style of it, like you
Mhm.
mentioning there isn't a laugh track. It's a sitcom in the same style that would later be like Malcolm in the Middle. Malcolm in the Middle just goes
Right.
like more absurd, but it's that same
Mhm.
type of show. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
but that's a great point by Phil that seeing
Yeah,
it at different
sure.
stages in your life and how you can relate differently. It's a
Yeah.
good one.
Thanks, Phil.
Mhm.
Also, you can
But,
email us. Yeah. If you
Yeah.
you want to. Those
Yeah,
those
if
were the
you want to
days
send
show
us
at Gmail.
feedback, yeah, those were the days show at gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter, those days show. Most of the social stuff I got was just, people liking it and like, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that show. It was good. It was good
It
stuff.
was. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the worst of it. So
Yeah.
that says a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Now next week, I believe Steven is bringing us his worst of the best.
I am, and I struggled with the right show to pick. It was either it wasn't streaming anywhere, which made it really difficult, or it's a
Yeah.
show I really love, and it was really hard to pick out one. I found there were a few categories of why a show is the worst show that I did was like, the subject matter and the reason why this show sucks is not something I want to talk about on primetime
Yeah,
internet.
no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like
No.
that was where I was at, like
Mhm.
looking through this. But I did manage to find one of a show that I really loved growing up, and that is the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Oh,
Wow.
snap.
Season 4, episode 7. I can't remember the subtitle of it, but season 4, episode 7. These are streaming on Hulu. So if you can watch The Wonder Years, you can watch the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And again, a show that's considered classic and wonderful all around has a worst episode, and we're gonna find out next week. Is the worst episode really bad TV, or is it kind of like this one where it's just the worst of a great show, which means it's
Yeah.
still pretty good.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out. I'm excited to go back and visit Mary Richards in Minnesota doing the news thing. It's gonna be good stuff. Looking forward to it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So that was what you said, season 4, episode 7?
Season 4, episode 7. It seems episode 7
7 is
episode
like
that sucks.
mid-season, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, what are we gonna do? I'm running out of ideas. Let's just throw something out there. This has a really fun cameo, which made me wonder, like, why does it suck? Because I'm really excited about the cameo, but hey, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay, apparently it's called Sons of But Seriously, folks.
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay.
it. But
All
seriously, folks. Yep. That'll be good. Or bad.
Yeah.
Let's hope
We
it's
will see.
terrible. Yeah. Find out next week.
Yep. So, thank you all, everybody thank you, Phil, for writing in again. Appreciate the feedback. Thank you, everybody who's been hanging in the chat tonight. We appreciate you guys and all the banter going back and forth. Again, if you want to watch us make the sausage, we're here Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/2dorkstv. Follow us on the social medias. Come hang out in the Two Dorks Discord. We'd love to have you. But until next week and the Mary Tyler Moore Show, for Steven, for Amy, for Travis, I'm Audie, and we hope you look back at those times in your lives past with some wonder. See you next week on Those Were the Days.